Hi there, I'm Matt Keene. Welcome to Creating a Future We Want, the Our Learning series, where share just a little bit about our values and principles and some of the stuff we're doing in our education here. It's morning. I'm fired up. Um, we put together principles of design for this home before we began building it. And you can sort of think about this maybe in terms of first principles, if familiar with that concept. And from there, we started our conversations about, our ideas, drawing, talking to lots of different folks who were going to help us do the project, and eventually started building. We went to our builder with our idea for a staircase, which was a metal staircase, and he gave us a quote for it, and I looked at the quote, and I was like, oh my gosh, this house is going to cost way more than I thought it was. I'm glad that I worked in the planning bias to this, so that we're going to be okay. And he was like, no, that's just the cost for the staircase. And I was like, what? And so that didn't work out. The thing was, though, right, he had spent his entire life building single-family residential homes. Every single staircase was basically wood, and he was working within those boundaries to conceive of how this metal staircase would be built and how it would be fabricated. We went down the road to a steel fabricator and who doesn't make staircases, but they gave us a quote for the staircase that was a tiny fraction of what the builder gave us. Amazing! It happened. It's very often the case that the more clear you are with your values and your beliefs and your principles, and the more adventurous you are and where you take those, it seems like the more often you'll run into this sort of proximity paradox, like where the closer people are to a thing, their area, their domain of expertise, the more difficult it is for them to see the idea next to it, the next new novel idea. So although they're closer to it all the time, their entire lives, it is very difficult for them to perceive it because it's fundamentally challenging something about the way they have done things, their tradition, their culture, the way they think, see, do, act, and many other structures, processes, and patterns, I'm sure. So, this happened with surf too. I love to go around and look for new places to surf, and that happened a lot more before I had children than it does anymore. But in Guatemala, there is absolutely no surf. I was dropped off in a town, I got off a bus in a town, a very tiny little town, just a few people there. Everybody's looking at me like I'm totally nuts, and I'm like, hey, where's the surf? And they're like, what are you talking about? There's no surf here. I'm like, but I can hear the ocean. There's some waves somewhere. And they're like, no, that's the swamp over there. I'm like, well, yes, okay, fine. Mangrove, swamp, but beyond that, there's got to be an ocean I can hear. You can hear those waves, can't you? Oh, yeah, but nobody goes there. There's no surf there. Okay, well, I ended up spending a couple weeks over there on that barrier island. And it's amazing surf, but there's no surf in Guatemala, so don't you dare even go. So, here's the situation. Yeah, if we're searching, and we're searching from our values, our beliefs, to create something new, something novel, something in honor of a future we want for the well-being of all life, and experts, authorities say no, we have to stop. Why did I ask that person? I must have some instinct, some notion of why it is possible to do the thing that I am considering doing. Trust yourself. Do not give too much weight to the perceived authority or expert. Very dangerous thing to do, in fact. The other thing that comes to mind, I was having a conversation right there with a buddy who's a physicist at UC Berkeley. Super brilliant guy, knows everything about everything. Well, I guess he sort of thought so too, because he was telling me how space flight, space tourism, absolutely not happening, not possible. I was like, that's weird. Okay, well, that challenges my understanding of the situation. Well, I realized later that he had been giving me, in a sense, economic arguments about why it wasn't possible, not arguments that a physicist should be. I should be listening to what a physicist says about physics, probably, but maybe not his opinion about economics. So there we go. Thank goodness that wasn't right. So we need to ask more questions when we hear that no, that really challenges us because we do see a pathway forward, but someone who is an expert says no. We need to clarify what their expertise is and what kind of arguments they have behind their no. So how do we make these novel discoveries, creative, beneficial discoveries inside our field? I loved seeing a particular study that was related to this. I don't know if it was really good, but I loved the study, showing the Nobel laureates who have hobbies that they spend a lot of time with in the arts outside of their field, like physics or economics or chemistry or whatever it is. If they're an artist or a dancer or a writer or whatever, they are many times more likely to win a Nobel Prize. So in order to make massive, awesome discoveries outside of your field, you need to put some of yourself outside of your field. What? That's so cool. So I guess I'm trying to do that all the time. In order to create a future that we want, we're going to have to synthesize a whole bunch of amazing stuff across many different domains and fields and disciplines and communities and everything else. I'm Matt Keene. Thanks for visiting Creating a Future We Want, the Our Learning Series, Proximity Paradox. What's your vision for a future of this proximity paradox in creating a future we want?